Hello, everyone, and welcome to Venita's podcast. I love saying that because it has my name in it. I want to thank everyone for joining me and spending time with me today. I have a very special guest, Dr. Sonji Phillips. She used to be the co host of the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show with me for about a year. And she's back today doing the podcast with me. She is a industrial
An organizational.
psychologist, an organizational and industrial psychologist. She used to be a clinical psychologist. And I am featuring her today because I love her and she's a very good friend of mine, and because she is a female entrepreneur who started her own business, Bryson Associates, in 2019, was
You
it?
remember?
Yes, I'm trying to remember, but I'm going to let her tell you all about it. And it's Women's History Month, and I just wanted to feature one of my good friends and someone that you guys may have seen because she co-hosts the David Goodman Show with us, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself, how she started her business, and how to help brand new entrepreneurs get started in their own business. Okay, so please tune in and share this with everyone. So, Dr. Sunji, thank you for coming on the show and welcome back.
Thank you, Miss Venita.
It is so good to be in the studio with you again. I
Yeah,
miss it. I will be the first to
I
admit it.
agree.
I miss it.
I loved
But
our times together in the
me
studio.
too. Me too. But she's so busy right now. And your business is growing. I'm
It is.
so happy for you.
Thank you so much.
Please tell our audience a little bit about yourself
Okay.
and then your journey to Bryson Associates. The good times, the bad times, the scary times, like
Yes.
COVID.
Yes, yes, yes. Ooh. Okay, so I just want to make one quick correction. You had said that I was once a clinical psychologist, but I did clinical work as a psychologist. But a clinical psychologist is a like a different kind of role, a different title. But I used my master's degree under someone else's licensure when I did my clinical work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I worked under a doctor.
I'm very good at accepting constructive criticism.
Okay. No, I just don't
Thank
want to.
you. Thank you.
I just didn't want to misrepresent myself. That's all.
Understood. Understood. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Miss Venita is correct. I did clinical work for many years, most of my career, and then I always did clinical work, and I had a administrative position. So I had a senior management, executive management position, within various organizations, and there just came this point that I realized, I'm doing so many things, and I don't know. I just decided that I didn't enjoy doing a lot of what I was doing, so I wanted to zoom in on what I wanted to do. And that's when I went back and I became an industrial and organizational psychologist. And in doing so, now I wasn't helping people one at a time, but I was helping the people that help people. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I was doing a lot more of assisting organizations, building training curriculums for organizations. And then I just kind of took that leap out and started it on my own.
Why can't I do this for myself? Pay my own bills. I like that.
That was my journey right there. I just decided, and so we started in 2019. And we were we were going to do this like really big launch. We developed a learning management system, and we were going to do this big launch, of course, in March of 2020. So we worked for a whole year on putting together our materials and everything we needed to do. And of course, March 2020 came, and we all know that story. So we had to pivot. That's what you do, you pivot. And then we had to start doing different works. I had to go back into clinical because that's what I had done most of my life, and start helping organizations, as a behaviorist, and that's what got us through COVID.
Yeah, I think that happens with a lot of businesses. As a matter of fact, I see a lot of entrepreneurs keeping their state job or their full time job and starting their businesses, just kind of working two jobs until it gets off the ground because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know. Nobody knew about COVID, but
Right.
there's other things that you don't know. You know how much money and time and investment that it's going to take to get off, and what type of obstacles you might run into,
Right.
and you still have to pay your bills. Plus, you got to pay the bills for the business
Right.
if you're renting a building or whatever type of business that it is. So,
So-
good job. You made it through COVID.
We survived COVID. That should be our motto. We survived COVID. So here we are, 7 years later, 2000. Yeah, because March
Wow.
would make 7 years. Am I saying it right? Julie?
Time flies.
I don't know, either
Yeah.
6 or 7.
This
I
is
don't know.
2026 and
This
2019 is
20
7
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
Wow.
you, and we continue to grow. Now, I want to say something about what you just said. I've had so now. Okay, let me begin by saying this. What we do is we help organizations. We are their back office people. So agencies outsource us for human resources, for training, and for compliance. So we are the compliance officer to several agencies. And so, in doing so, we kind of audit their records, their books. We make sure that all of their things are in order. And then we do lots and lots of trainings for multiple organizations. Sometimes it's a one-off. You just need us to come in and do a one-time leadership training that, maybe 6 weeks long, maybe just one particular. And then other times we do, renewal, annual refreshers in specific trainings. So I have an organization right now that I'm working with, and they're getting started. And so the person that owns the company, she asked me that question. She's developing a program for individuals with developmental disabilities. And she asked me that question. Should I continue to work my full-time job and just get it started until we're at a point where we can now, I can now afford to come in and support my income? And my answer was no. And the reason why I say that is because when you start an organization like that and you're working with childcare workers or direct support staff, if you're not physically there to manage the day-to-day, then they're going to take on their own personalities. They're going to do what they feel is appropriate to do. And you're at work. So you're not managing, you're not monitoring, you're not establishing your rules, your vision, for the agency. You're coming in at a time when they're all going home. So you're not in control of what's happening. And then when you come in 6 months later, when you kind of get that money flowing and you're like, okay, I can quit my job, you're going to more than likely see an entire turnover, because now you're coming in, putting your values and your mission and telling them what they can and can't do, but they've been doing this for 6 months. And, your reputation is all that you have. So if I'm building Sonji's program and they see my staff out there with the individuals and they're just sitting in cars, they're just hanging out there. Well, where do you guys work? We work at Sonji's program. Now, my reputation is smeared because the staff that you work with are the face of your agency.
Exactly.
So I don't care if you are Microsoft, the salespeople in the stores. When people talk about whether or not they had a good experience with Microsoft, it's not the CEO. It is the people that's in the store. So if you're running a human resources agency, the direct care staff are the face of your agency.
Yep. The first person that they speak to, being a former customer service representative, sets the tone
Absolutely.
for the whole business.
Absolutely.
So are you speaking just about your particular type of business that you have to be hands-on, or is this for most businesses?
I'm going to say most.
Okay.
I'm going to
All
say
right.
most because unless you bring in a leader that works in there and they have your same vision, your same work ethics,
Okay.
and they can mimic who you are when you're not there, then the staff that are there are going to become the owners
Exactly.
of it. And so
Exactly.
now when you come in, you've got a whole mess going on there. So yeah, I generally don't suggest
Recommend
it.
doing it too. So let's just say you don't have the support of, of the financial support to just stop your job and start that. So what do you recommend? Just get a great business plan, get a business loan, get a
Absolutely.
bank to support
Absolutely.
you and get it done. Okay.
Absolutely. And I
And the
always
start of that is a great business plan. That will get you the loan.
Absolutely. Create a great business plan. And I always suggest that they go to the SBA because the SBA has a very small interest rate and you
What's the
pay it.
SBA?
Oh, I'm sorry, Small Business Association, those
Okay.
SBA loans. Sorry. Sorry.
I got so many acronyms in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's this? What's that?
No,
Okay.
I always recommend that they go to the Small Business Association, get an SBA loan, because the interest rate is very low. In some cases, it may be 2 or 3%.
Ooh.
And also, they give you 30 years to pay it back. So let's say that you're starting a business and you need to borrow 150,000. You're paying that 150,000 back over the course of 30 years, and your monthly payback is like 7 or 800, maybe 800 or so dollars, 850. That's not going to hurt you as you continue the business. So then you also need to have a good plan in place for growing it. You have to have a good budget in place because you've got to know what you need to spend to get you where you need to be.
Is all that in as part of the business plan?
It
Where
should
you
be.
start, where you're going, where you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years.
It should be.
Okay.
And then you need to get a good support staff around you. And that good support staff are some of the things we do: HR, compliance, because you don't want to start that business. For one, you can't afford an HR director. You're not even big enough to do an HR director. You're not big enough to have a compliance officer. So when now you're just spending a little bit of money each month on an organization sort of like ours, we're going to make sure that your business is set up right. We're going to make sure that the documents that you're doing, that your paperwork, all of that is in place because you don't want to start it wrong and now you have to go back and play the cleanup.
Exactly.
So that's where we sort of come in for organizations. And I know many organizations, will say, oh, but that's just extra money. I've got stories I could tell for days about people who, chose not to do it because, that's an extra few $100s a month. I
Right.
don't really have that. And then in their second year, they get an audit. After the end of the first year, they get an audit, and they've got this problem and that problem. The feds are pulling money back because they didn't have this properly aligned and that properly aligned. And then we get the call. That's
Yeah.
a lot of
To
times.
fix it. You're
A
the fix
lot
it
of times,
people.
that's when we get the call. And so now they want us to come in and fix it because the federal government or the state has taken back 75,000. And then when you compare that with the little bit of money, and it's not, we don't charge a whole lot, but when you compare that to what they would have spent over the course of that first year, it's such a huge loss to an organization. And now what do? Now they have to go get a business loan to pay that off, pay to say, like it's like this, do I say it like a round robin type of thing, So yes,
I call that penny wise and pound foolish.
that's what it is.
That's the old cliche, I think, for that. When you're doing things, you want to do them the right way,
Absolutely.
and being a new entrepreneur for any business, I'll just say your business, training people, you just don't know everything. And so that's
Correct.
why they need to bring in someone like you who does know everything,
Yeah,
pretty much, in a
absolutely.
professional manner, who knows how to, if you're losing employees, who can set up a retention plan for your employees or something for your accounting department or payroll or whatever, and could, recommend people, refer
Absolutely.
people that are, accountable, for insurance.
Right.
Like if you need an insurance agent, you can always call me. Shout out, Venita.
But
No.
you
No,
we're
seriously.
laughing, but
Yeah.
that is the case because
Yeah.
with these that's you know sometimes agencies will say, "Oh, I'll just hire so and so, and I'll let
Exactly.
her do all of that." Well, she's not equipped. She doesn't have the experience, and to do all of that.
Yep.
But when you bring in an agency such as ours, I may not know everything, but I have two people that have SHRM accreditation who's been
Yep.
through, and then I have my attorney
Yep.
that we, outsource to agencies and we refer to for many cases. We have our IT person that when they're looking at getting software. So when you bring in an agency such as ours, you number one, we never nickel and dime people. Now, if you need an attorney, we'll let you know that this is the attorney's fee, or if you need the IT person, we'll let you know this is his additional rate. You'll get a certain number of hours each year of our attorney or of our IT person.
Yep.
And beyond that, then you know what the cost is. So we never nickel and dime. Everything else that we do, it comes in with the monthly rate. So you know what you're spending. And you don't have this one person now that you have the responsibility of supervising. But our clientele, like I'm on the phone 10:30, 11 o'clock at night because absolutely. So when you keep saying she's busy, this is what you're
I
referring
know.
to.
I mean, I'm asleep at that time.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm usually on the phone, on the computer, because someone has said, Sonji, blah, 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 blah. And so now I'm on the computer trying to figure it out, reaching out to IT. Are you still up? And, and this is what's
Yeah.
going on because you have a team now. So you're not by yourself.
Exactly.
When I started my organization, I was by myself. And that was the hardest thing because I had worked for many years for organizations. And I didn't realize that once you start on your own, you are IT, you are HR, you are manager, you are cook, chef, and candlestick maker in that organization.
Yep.
And everything falls on you and everyone depends on you. So I had to do what I'm telling other people to do. I had to start bringing people in because I couldn't do it on my own.
No way.
Every decision had to come from me. But now that I have a team, I can go over to my HR person and say, what do you think? Okay, I'm going to leave this to you. Once you come up with a plan, give it to me and let me overlook it. And see, that's what we do for agencies. So they're not trying to figure this whole business
There's not
out.
enough hours in a day.
It's not.
To do everything. Just like in my business with insurance, I have a field management organization that negotiate contracts and check their credit, run everything on these companies to make sure that these are really good companies and they're not scams or shells or anything like that. And I'll tell you a quick story about when you're starting a new business and you're a small business and you're getting like a certain company to do your payroll or to handle your insurance or something like that. So my husband worked for a company. It was they subcontracted with Yale Hospital. And this company, it was a small company, and I think it was two brothers, and they got, certain people to do their payroll and people to do their insurance. The insurance company they got, so this is where it's really important to get credible people. The insurance company they got looked completely legitimate. All the, doctor bills and this and that. So what happened, it was just a face. If the bill was more than, I don't know, I think it was $2,000 or $5,000, it bounced. The insurance was only good for a certain amount. So it's so important. That right there taught me that it's so important to have a company like yours come in and refer credible people. Where if my husband still gets bills, this is from like almost 20 years ago, and we have letters and everything from the lawyer stating that, this insurance company performed fraud. It was fraud because they only paid bills up to a certain amount. So if you had surgery or something like that and the bill was 10,000, it would bounce. It would bounce. So you have to really, really
vet who you're working
thank
with.
you.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have to vet who you're working for. And if you refer a lawyer, I'm sure it comes with, you vetted them and everything is okay.
Absolutely.
That is
And
so important.
it's funny that you say that because I've had that happen multiple times.
Really?
Where,
With insurance?
no. With agencies.
I want to get a
with-
bad rap here.
No, not at all.
With agencies not vetting the
Not
people that
vetting.
they hire.
And so now they've hired, I'll just use for example, now they've hired an HR person, and I asked them, because we're the compliance team, so we're kind of over the HR person, and I'll ask them, okay, well, you've hired this HR person, so we directly supervise them. But there have been times that they have, before we became their compliance, that they would hire an HR person as a consultant. And my question is, well, what's their experience? Do you mind if I look at their resume? And I look at the resume, and it's, someone, a young adult who graduated with a bachelor's in HR management, and they've been working for 9 months at a specific corporation. And now you've outsourced yourself as a consultant. It's not true. And I've had to say that to agencies. It's just not true.
Yeah.
A person who has a 4-year degree and 9 months of experience doing something cannot be a consultant. They haven't seen enough, they haven't experienced enough, they don't know enough to be a consultant, because there is a big difference between an employee and a consultant. And when I bring in a consultant, my expectation is that I'm not supervising you. A consultant works independent from oversight and supervision. That's the reason that you're able to have them as a consultant, because they don't require supervision, training. You can't dictate when and where they're doing their work. And
Yeah.
so agencies will say, "Oh, I'm gonna bring this person in as a consultant," and now you have someone that's very fresh, very new, with the experience of one organization
You got to
over the
micromanage
last.
them.
Now you have to micromanage them, but you're not an HR person. So now we've got the blind leading the blind, because they don't actually know what to do in any situation outside of what they've experienced in 9 months of working. So if you're going to bring somebody in as a consultant, then you need to make sure they have enough experience that any situation that come up, you can count on them to do it. You can bring them in as a consultant, and you can go on about your day and do your work,
Right,
because
right.
they're not somebody that requires supervision or training.
And they know what they're doing.
And they know what they're
and they have
doing.
the experience.
And they
Yeah.
have the experience, because that's one of the things that I always say to my agency. Be very mindful and be very careful. Whenever they say to me, "Oh, we're going to bring in a consultant," I always want to see who that consultant is, because if they don't have the know-how and the experience to do the job, you're headed for a whole hot mess.
And they make you look bad.
Well,
Exact-
I don't bring,
Oh, okay.
no, I don't bring,
Not you.
no, the people that
So-
we send in are well vetted.
Yes.
And I do not. And so there have been times that I have taken people who has 25 years in the field, and I've started them doing something different than what they've been accustomed to doing. So they have worked for 25 years, let's say, in a IDD, Dayhab residence, home facility, which is community hab, or whatever that may be. And I've brought them in, and now I have them doing audits for agencies. And they're like, "Well, I never really audited. I just kind of took care of my organization." And that's fine, because you have 25 years of experience of knowing what it takes to run all of these type of services. And then I directly supervise them.
When you say audit, you mean like a financial audit, or?
No, it's usually a facility audit, where they make sure that all of the standards of that type of program are being met by the facility, and
Okay.
that goes with the cleanliness of the house, making sure the paperwork is in order, things
Okay.
like that. So I've done that, but I supervise any of my people that come in, and then like, we don't take it lightly. I had a agency down in Georgia, Youth and Family Services. It was foster care. Well, throughout my career, I never worked for foster care, but they wanted to bring me in. They heard of our reputation, and they wanted to bring us in. So, I didn't come in with that image that, okay, well, we'll figure it out. I got in there. I got the standards. I printed them down. I think something like 283 pages. And
Wow.
for the next 3 weeks, I had my highlighter. I had my flag. I went through every piece of that paper. I made notes. I did it all. And then I connected with somebody in the state government so that I would have a contact in case I had any questions.
Right.
And we take what we do seriously. So then once I did that, then I brought someone in, vetted them, hired them in from Georgia. They had familiarity with it. I was the one that didn't. But if I'm going to supervise you, then I need to know what I'm supervising you on. And so then I supervised her, and she went in, and she was the one that worked directly with the organization. And I would go down, I think, like every other month, to oversee, to make sure everything was in place. So when I say to you, we take seriously the work that we do, we take it very seriously. I would not go into an organization not knowing what I'm doing and, just putting on this image that where I'm well versed and I'm a consultant. I've got this many. Nope.
Yeah, no arrogance. It's just
none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Wow. So tell us about some of the different types of businesses that you work with.
Okay.
So that,
I want to say just about, well, no. So they're not all nonprofits, but we work with a program in Georgia. It's Youth and Family Services. It's foster care. And I should say we have a couple down there. And then down there we provide trainings to organizations.
Okay.
So we, from working with them, we've got connected. And so now we do lots of trainings with organizations down in Georgia, North Carolina as well. That's an IDD program. And we're really kind of getting...
Excuse me, IDD again,
I'm sorry. I always do this to you, don't I? Intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Okay.
No, but I shouldn't be using acronyms anyway. But
I know of one in Georgia. I do.
Right.
Carol Jean. So they have, she has a few houses. So this is like, I think her business is, she has a few houses and some of the people have challenges and they range from children to adults.
Yes.
And it's like a 24-hour care.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I know for a fact that you do.
and
that is so rewarding when you can walk into a place like that and, check your ego at the door just because you have 30 years of experience and this, that, and the other, and sit down and talk to people and get to know them and find out what they need and train them and then get with, the people in state and then supervise it from a distance. So you work up and down the East Coast.
I do.
She's a national trainer.
We do lots and lots of work in New York as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have lots and lots of work we do in New York.
So you work with those types of businesses?
It's usually, those types of
That's the majority of your business?
Yes. That is the majority.
They require the most training.
And every now and again, we'll work with, corporations. Like we did training at the Signature Theater in Manhattan. And I tell you, the theater is amazing. It was just beautiful. And that was something different because we were working with stage hands, and I don't think it was any actors or anything, but all of the people that build the theater up.
Okay.
And so that was very different, and it was we loved it.
What did you do there? I mean,
what training did
professional
we do?
Actors and
I don't remember.
Not
if there
the
was
actors
any
that actually did the show, but the people that worked
the
for
people
the
that
theater,
worked for
like
the theater,
custodians and stage.
the stage hands and stuff. Yeah,
How would they need to be trained? I'm just curious.
Well, keep in mind that everybody, you can't walk into a place of employment without having
training.
sexuality, harassment, sexual harassment.
Oh, okay.
And then, what was it? I think it was maybe emergency preparedness that we did with them.
Have you ever done diversity training?
We do a lot of diversity training.
I only ask because I worked for this one company, and I do believe that I was the only Black person that had ever worked at this company. And they, the owner got someone in after a couple of incidents to have everyone go to diversity training except me. I didn't go.
You were diverse enough?
Oh, yeah, please. Really? And I didn't know that, things like that existed. So I was going to ask you, Why haven't you done a lot of like corporations for diversity training? Is it because of awareness? People don't know about your company?
So
Or,
that
would you
I,
like to do more of that?
so I want to say yes.
Well,
So
give us your
we
information. Make sure we put that out there a few times.
okay,
Your
okay,
phone number or your email address. How would you, the name of your company? We'll just shout it out a few times
okay.
throughout, just in case somebody have to get up and go to work and may
Right.
not get it all. But we're also going to flash it on the lower thirds.
Okay, okay.
But,
So the name of the company is Bryson Associates,
and that's spelled.
Briason Associates. And I want to say, just as an FYI, the name is my daughter, Bria, Bria. My name's Sonji, Son.
Okay.
And we pronounce it as my son's name, which is Bryson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very nice. And the one thing I know and I love about your company is that you do free webinars
Yes,
on Mondays
we
and
do.
Wednesdays, and they're bilingual. So tell
Yes.
us about that.
Yes, well, we
Stop
do.
holding back, Dr. Sonji. This is about you.
We do.
You do so many great things, and this is free.
Yeah, we want to offer as much as we can to the community because, there are people out there. So the trainings that we do all sorts of trainings. We do it for different communities, different populations, but definitely parenting. Because one of the things that we found is that there is a lot of postpartum, and it's hard being a parent. I'm a parent of
You ain't got to
two.
tell me.
And there was no manual there. You give birth and you figure this out. And so, one of the things we want to do is help parents, through that process. And then, nowadays, parents are struggling with their children, children are acting up. But what we don't realize is that our children behavior is a direct influence from their environment. So, parents, I've had it where, so we are a part, we have a grant in New York City Administration for Children's Services,
Okay.
and we provide parenting supports. And one of the things is like, and I'll use, for instance, we had this couple, husband and wife, they came in, and when we, did their initial assessment, they were using words like hopeless. There's, we don't have a life. Because their son was really, going through difficulties. He was turning their house upside down, and, and his sisters were afraid of him, and they would stay locked up. Like everybody was just divided.
Yeah,
and-
challenges.
yeah.
Okay.
And so they said we have to come here, to your program, but it's hopeless. And these were the words, and it really just made my heart just want to cry. And we got in there and we started working with them, and we explained that you guys are the reason for how and why he's behaving. Oh
Exactly.
no, because our
Yeah.
daughters are not like that, and I'm like, but he's different. Every child is different.
Each one of them.
And so we taught them how not to respond to his behavior. We taught them how to give him an abundance of like always smile. This is something I tell parents all the time. When you have kids like that, always smile at them. Every time you look at them,
Why?
smile. Because it's giving them affirmation.
Okay.
And that affirmation could just be love. My mom loves me. My dad loves me. So every time you see him, just take the opportunity to rub his arm, his shoulder. Give him a little punch if you're a dad
some
or
kids
if
need
you're a mom.
extra. Give them
Just
that extra.
kiss him on his head, and then when he starts behaving, you just remove it.
Just ignore him.
You just and it's
wow,
not.
that's so interesting.
It's not long-term ignoring because, people want to ignore you all night. No. When they are having the behavior, you take away that affect, you take away that smile, and you turn your face from them. And they will get that mom is not pleased because they love that smile. They love every time they look up and you look over at them that they see you smiling at them. They love that. And so we kind of taught them techniques like that. It's a transitional program for 12 weeks. By the
That's
time they
interesting.
graduated, and it was additional techniques we had to,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
we're in the home, we're doing the parent coaching, we're
So
seeing
you go to
things.
the house?
Yes,
Ooh,
yes. The
okay.
staff go to the house and they teach them different techniques and they see what's going on. So they're able to guide them and say, Don't do that. I saw what you did here. In the future, if he says this, if he does, well, by the end of the time, they were like spokespeople. They were on our line speaking to the other parents, and they were in tears because
Wow.
they said they never thought they would have a life.
Well, yeah, you said they thought it was hopeless.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question. I
Sure.
mean, so we got all this free information here. So with my granddaughter, she's 4 years old. She's gonna be 5. She doesn't have tantrums or anything, but when she acts out, it's probably my fault because I probably gave her too much sugar or whatever, or she cries for no reason, or just get to the point where it could be overtired, or it could be a combination of sugar or whatever. And I don't like spanking her because God knows I did that with my oldest son. I just don't want to do it with my grandkids. And she starts crying and have her little fit or whatever. So I tell her to go into Uncle Johnny's room, which is, the extra room, and close the door. And I said, when you stop crying and you're ready to come out, just knock on the door from the inside.
How does she respond to that?
She has a little fit in there. She was having her little fits in there at age 3 to 4. And she would cry and scream or whatever. And then she would stop. It would take a little while. And then, because my husband's like, I got to go get her. I'm like, no, you do. It's going to be on right now. So, and then she started knocking when she was done. And I would come out and hug her and kiss her and tell her I love her and this, that, and the other. The last time I did it was just last week. And I put her in there. And she almost stopped crying almost immediately, a couple, drops. And she started being constructive. We have this puzzle and stuff. She started putting it all together all over the floor. And she didn't knock to come out. She kind of stayed in there. I just knocked on the door and went in and asked her. So I feel like I'm on the right track.
You are? So
Because
that's
I had you for a year. And I don't believe in hitting. I don't want to hit my grandkids. I
right.
just don't.
What I want to say is, and this is my belief. That age is a little tricky, but what I want to say is, with little kids, I don't believe in hitting kids. I don't. But there are times that you have to get a child's attention. Like I've seen parents that beat on 1 year on 2 year. Oh, she's got to learn
no.
to listen. Well, only thing you're doing is making her angry.
Yeah.
You're making her mad. And then you're going to have this
You're
angry
hurting
little
them.
16-year-old, 12-year-old running behind you, and you don't know what her problem is. Well, you beat on her. You taught her that pain was necessary, just because. So I absolutely don't believe in hitting kids. What I have done, even with my own kids, is when they are doing something, I just redirect them. I verbally redirect them, or I've had
When
it
they're
where,
that little.
right?
Yeah.
Or I've had it where, I'll tell them, come here and sit down, and they still standing where they at, and I just move them over and I sit them down. I don't repeat myself twice. So you understand when I speak that I mean for you to follow through,
Right.
and I don't do it in a mean way. I don't do, just because sometimes they just need help. They need help getting from here to there, and so I would just take them in and sit them down. Now, when it comes to like popping them, I'm not totally against that. But like I
What, to like
say,
shock them, like scare them, like.
to get their attention. That's what I like to
Okay.
say to parents. You should never hit your kids to hurt your kids. Oh, well, that's the way they're going to remember. No. If if they're reaching for the fire and you said, don't do that, and then you tap their hand, you got their attention.
Right.
That's it. You've gotten their attention because you knew they were in danger, they were going to hurt themselves, and you avoided it for the safety of your child.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the tantrums, that 4 to 5 year age range, it's a little different. But at that point, I really don't feel you should be hitting a child because at that point, they have a better understanding. Like when they're 1 and 2 and they're reaching for a fire, you may need to get their attention. By 4 or 5, they have a better understanding, and they shouldn't be hit on. They shouldn't be beaten on. Number one, because they're going to
They
go to...
should know better.
They should know
At
better
that point.
at that point because you should have taught them up to
Some
that time.
kids are defiant.
And they are defiant. They are defiant.
Some
But you
of
know
them.
why? many of them are defiant because that's when they get the most of your attention.
Oh, okay.
So, they're coming in the living room and you've got your show on, Beauty in Black or whatever it is. And, you're watching TV and they want to have a whole conversation with you and you're telling them, go on in the room, go on in the room. Guess what? When they come back in there and they throw something on the floor, now they got your whole attention.
Yes, yeah, that's
So
true.
that's a lot of the reason why kids are defiant because that they know in defiance, I get your attention.
Wow. Well,
But
thank you for that. I do appreciate it. I don't want to take you off
No, no,
track
no.
here,
No,
but that is part of the training that you
That's
do.
a part of the
And
training
I'm
we
telling
do
you
with
guys, take
parents.
advantage of this. I mean, she was my co-host for a year and a half, and I listened to everything she said, and that's how I came up with that plan to put her in the room, to not hit her,
Right.
or because that's what I did with my son. I would pop him.
Yeah.
He was just defiant, but he's a whole different child. Anyway, the training is essential. You
It
have
is.
to have it.
It is.
You got to train.
Right.
And you, as a parent, it is the hardest thing because your child is going to learn everything from you. Because when they come home, they're
Yep.
with you.
Yep.
They're with you all day, at least for the first, I don't know, couple of years, if you can do that.
Absolutely. And I like what you said. We've got to be careful because if our children are not with us, then we have to know who they are learning from. So, if you have that girlfriend that she doesn't share your same morals and ethics, but you need somebody to keep them after school because you're working, I would sooner look towards, because whatever that person's morals and ethics, they're going to have your child for longer hours during the day than you will. So they'll be a
Exactly.
greater influence on your child than you will.
That's true. They're raising your kids for a certain amount of time. And then when
Right.
you get home from work, you're
Right.
tired.
Right.
You got to
You're-
cook dinner. You got to do all these things.
You're coming in at 7
Yeah.
o'clock. They've had them from 2:30 to 7. You're coming in at 7. And now you got enough time to give them a bath, feed them, or they probably already fed them, but give them a bath and put them to bed by 8. So
Yeah.
really be careful about whose influence is over your child. It's not something to be taken lightly.
That's good advice. That's really good advice.
Thank you.
So, getting back to the corporate world, we kind of got off track from that.
Okay.
How would you like to do more training in corporate than in, opposed to what you're doing now? What are you more passionate about?
So my passion is always helping people.
With
So
your hands-on with the
yeah,
people?
I love the human resources because I'm training people that help people. It doesn't mean that we can't do corporate because, like I said, when we worked with the Signature Theater, it was such a fun experience. I got to see somebody else's world because I've always been a nonprofit. So being able to see somebody else's world was amazing to me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So corporate training, nonprofit, directly with parents, we do it all.
Nice. And I commend you for that. I really do. Teachers, nurses, trainers, because you're like a parent there. You're training the parents, you're training the kids, you're training the parents how to act with the children or how to train the children. That's really rewarding. And then to see it all come to fruition, to see the kids I guess follow whatever training you did. That's got to be so rewarding.
It is.
And so then once you do that, say you train a family for a month and then you just move on and they're good to go. Do you check in with them monthly or based on, say the kid's only 5, do you check in yearly when they get to be 6? Do they buy your books? I know you have books.
Yes, we do.
You got to have training books.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So what I want to say
Get
is
all this information out.
Yes, thank you, Venita. So Bryson Associates, BRIASON. We have training books. What I want to say is the training program is 12-week transitional. So we have a little feet in the ground there, to last about 12 weeks. We don't always follow up with them. They will call us from time
they
to time.
need you.
They definitely make recommendations for other friends. I have this friend and she's really struggling with her child, and I told her how you guys were able to help us, things like that. or we'll get calls from somebody that says, I remember my nephew and he was a terror. And I see how he has improved. And they told me that you guys worked with him. So yeah, we get lots and lots and lots of
Nothing more
referrals.
powerful than a referral.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
love it.
Yeah, and that's how we're growing because
Yeah.
any agency that's worked with us, when I say to you that, you know, I know when we come out, because we're a small business. One
How
of
small? How many employees you have?
Okay, so
10,
we have
15?
so we because this is going to sound weird after well no, small businesses are
It's
under
small.
300 employees. So we have a total of about 55.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's mostly consultants. So we have trainers, consultants who they may do a one time off training, or they may have a specialty. So if you might be a consultant for us because you specialize in Medicaid and billing and retirement services, so anytime we needed anything with insurance, it would be you that we would call in to do training about insurance. So when I say 55, we don't have 55 full-time
Right,
employees,
right. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
nice.
yes. So I was saying something and we got off track again. So the books.
The books, yeah.
Yes. So the books. We have a book on IDD training. For anyone who. For intellectual and developmental disabilities training. So, and I really put in mind parents who are working in what they call self-directed services, meaning the parent gets a budget from the state and now they have to hire their own staff. Sounds wonderful, right? But you're not a program director, you're not a residence manager. So how do you train your staff? How do you, set up schedules and collect data? Like that's
I
not
would have
something.
no idea on how to do that.
And so we have parents that are out there on self-directed, or the individuals that are on self-directed budgets, and parents that are parents. My job is at 9 to 5 here. I'm not. So we have books on how to train the workers that work with the parents. We step in as well to support in developing services for them, programs for them. What else? And then we have another book on leadership. So this book is, all about being accountability starts at the top. That's the name of the book.
Yes, it does.
Accountability starts at the top. And so, we are kind of training leaders how one of the things that leaders may do is they'll walk in this room and they'll say, clean up this room, and then they'll leave out. Well, you and I, and we'll sit around and we'll say, oh, okay, well, let's
looks
finish.
clean to me.
Yeah, that's one thing. It looks clean to me because this is my definition of clean. Or okay, well, we're finishing up our podcast, so whenever we get done, we'll do it. And then 20 minutes later, they'll come in. Didn't I tell you guys to clean up? And then, but they didn't leave any instructions. They didn't
Right.
leave specific tasks. And many managers don't manage. They act as leaders. Coming in and saying, clean up this room, you are acting as a leader. But when you come in and you say, guys, I need everything off of the table, and I need, the floor swept, the floor mopped, and I'm going to need this to happen, in the next half hour. You
Yeah.
just manage the task.
Exactly.
And so one of the things, because we do a lot of coaching for leaders, so, we set up like 90-minute coaching sessions for agencies' teams, and these are a lot of the things that we hear from the agencies that, my staff don't listen, it doesn't matter what I say to them, and then we ask them the question, well, how do you say it? Give
Exactly.
us an example, and that's what they say. I'll tell them to to clean up the rooms. Okay, you're not managing the task.
Exactly.
You didn't do anything measurable there. You didn't give start and stop times. You didn't even operationally define what cleaning up means, because cleaning up to you means different than what it means.
Exactly.
So then we help leaders to begin to manage, and then we see, then we get the reports that the programs are going so much better, because a lot of times
they know what to do.
executive and senior management, they don't. Do I want to? So it's not that they don't have that intuitiveness, but everybody has a job. So my job is to tell you what to do and to get these papers out, and everybody got their papers. I went over it with them, and I got the sign-in sheet to prove it. Or everybody was trained in this. Well, I didn't really understand what it was that you wanted. Nobody is managing the task. And so that's one of the things that we specifically train for leaders, managing the task
And this
and
is
being accountable.
and this is good for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for IDDs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because
Absolutely.
I
We
mean,
train our parents the
you're
same thing, how to
yeah,
manage their requests.
exactly. It
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if your children have
Mm-hmm.
disabilities or not. You can use this information for just a regular household. And it doesn't, you can take this information as the head of the household, whether you're the husband or the wife, and train your whole family
Mm-hmm.
on, how you like the room clean, say, for
Right.
example, since we were
Right.
using that as an
Mm-hmm.
example.
Right.
That's amazing. That's
Mm-hmm.
really something.
Yeah, and
So,
it looks like it's a problem because they're not doing what I
mm-hmm.
told them to do. But if you tell your son, clean up the kitchen, and then you come back, the kitchen is not clean, well, you
Yeah.
didn't manage the task.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So you have to be either lead by example and show them how to do it
Mm-hmm.
as you do it one time.
Mm-hmm.
I like the dishes stacked here. I want
Mm-hmm.
the table here and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you say clean the room, this is what I mean by I want the
Mm-hmm.
room clean, or delegate, precise information.
Mm-hmm.
Clean the table, sweep the floor, wash the dishes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And that works for regular
It
households.
works for regular
It
households. I can't
does.
tell you how many times
Hmm.
I've said to my son, we finish eating dinner, you got the dishes, you got the
Hmm.
kitchen, clean it up. And he's like, all right, Ma. And then I
And
go
they know
on
exactly
wherever.
what to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. No, no, no. I go on, I do whatever I'm doing. And then as I'm getting ready for bed, it's like 11 o'clock. I'm getting ready for bed. And, you do that walk through of the house, making sure all doors are locked. And I look in the kitchen.
He
Then
do
you
the
go back to
dishes.
his room. Didn't I tell you to clean up the kitchen? I am, Ma. I'm still playing this game. Really? Like,
Clean the kitchen up by 9 o'clock.
there you go. So now I've got to
That's what you got
manage
to
that
do.
task. Now I've got to manage it.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Sonji, why don't you just again give us your information, okay,
Absolutely.
and talk to the entrepreneurs that are interested in starting their own business, perhaps something like yours, and or the corporations that have not had an opportunity to have you
Oh, okay.
work for their business. How about something like that?
Okay. Okay, so if you are interested, if you just see that you need that little bit of help, you're running your business now and you feel like you're trying to wear far too many hats, you wouldn't believe the cost of your sanity. It is far less than what you would imagine. Reach out to us at brisonassociates.com, and that's BRIASON associates with an S.com. And let's just tell you a little bit about what we do and how we can help you to manage so you don't feel so alone. We work with entrepreneurs, we work with established businesses. We have quite a few businesses that's been that have been, um, you know, 10, 20 years. They've had a changeover of a CEO or a CFO, and the board wants to make sure that they're supported in their new role. It's multiple reasons. Parents, if you need assistance with your kids, families, reach out to us, join some of our parenting training. Um, yeah, we're here, and I want to say this honestly. We do an amazing job. We Every client we've ever had, they've recommended us, and that's how we've grown. Oh, and I'm
That's
sorry,
awesome.
you had asked me that, so I want to just throw that in right quick. We have grown over the years because of the referrals. Every business that we've had is because somebody referred them. So now you were asking, how do we build it in Coastal? So now we've brought in a development officer, and she's expanding our reach because right now, all of our work is just arm's length. Once we work with Venita, Venita recommends us to someone else, and that person recommends us to someone else. But now we want to expand and we want to grow tremendously. So now we have someone that's in, and she's kind of reaching out to people that is not within our arm's reach. So yes, but if you need those type of services, just give us a call or email us. Okay, a call would be 855 778 1262. And you can look us up on Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, I don't know, whatever else there is out there. I don't do the social media, so
She has a person for that.
yes, yes. Oh, and
You do.
yes, and very important. As a new person coming in, don't try to be the all in all. Get people that have expertise in areas to do some of that for you. Take the weight off you. You do what you're an expert in doing, and you let them do what they're an expert in doing, and you'll see how quickly your agency will grow. Because if you are physically trying to grow it and managing the day to day and running it, you're not gonna be successful in getting it off the ground. So get some people around you that can support you in whatever your vision and your mission is.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to just take this opportunity to thank you for coming on to Venita's podcast and sharing all this information about your business. I want to congratulate you
Thank you.
on 7 years of business, including surviving COVID. And that's very important because a lot of businesses did not survive COVID. They had, adverse effect and just was not able to come back because they, fell too far in. And I just want to thank you again for coming on. And I hope and pray that everyone would share this information to your family, your friends, anyone in business, and contact Dr. Sonji Phillips at Bryson Associates if you have any questions or any information. We're going to have her email address on the lower third, so you can always just send her an email. She's very busy. She'll get back to you eventually within, a couple of days or whatever. And also, she works nationally. She doesn't just work here in Connecticut,
Absolutely.
New York, North Carolina, Georgia. She's up and down the East Coast.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for sharing this information and wish you all the continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming on. Do you have anything else you'd like to share? Any last words?
Thank you so much for inviting me out, Venita. I always have a good time when we're together.
You're very welcome, and happy Women's History
Happy Women's History Month.
Yes, we had a week left. Thank you, everybody, for coming on and sharing your time with me. This is Venita's podcast, and I hope you have a wonderful day.